I'm coming at you live on tape from Sydney, Ohio. And today's movie is Cinderella's Revenge. Now, you might be wondering why they're making all these horror movies after all our favorite fairy tales and children's characters from our childhood. And the answer is because it's cool. We have Winnie the Pooh, we got Cinderella, we got Alice in Wonderland, Toy Story. We got Peter Pan coming up and Bambi, and it's awesome. We can just tell our kids these are the real stories. Now, in this movie, her name is actually Cinderella, like in the Disney tale. Now, you might be wondering what kind of a sick fuck would name their kid Cinderella. And the answer is, I don't know. But in the original book, and in, I think, a couple other Cinderella movies, her name was not actually Cinderella. It was like a mean name that her stepsisters and stepmother called her because she slept by the fireplace and was always covered in ash and cinders, so they called her Cinderella. And in other movies, her name was Ella, but in the original story, her name was Lucette. But in this movie, they actually named her Cinderella like as a mocking name, like if I named you Joe Dirt. But this movie's awesome because Cinderella is having her revenge on all those who wronged her. And it is an awesome film, so let's get started in it. And as you can see, the kitty is getting into things today, so expect bad behavior. It starts with Cinderella Snapped, the song by Jax. And then goes to Cinderella's father running from the king's men because her stepmother set him up to make it look like he stole the king's jewels. So he goes to her stepmother, whose name is Elizabeth, and tells her they need to get out of town, at which point her stepmother and two goons she hired turn on him, behead him, and move on their merry little way. To her stepmother, Elizabeth, then tells Cinderella that her dad is dead and that she's agreed to let her stay in her house, but only if she does some chores around the house. Then we go 3 years later, and Cinderella is in full servant mode, with her stepsisters torturing her, setting her up like she steals, like she breaks vases, to be punished. But the prince is having a ball and looking for a wife. Cinderella asks her stepmother if she can go, and her stepmother threatens to beat her. So that's the stepmother we have in this movie. One that threatens to beat you if you ask to go to a ball. While her stepsisters and stepmother go to this ball, Cinderella prays to Muhammad, Moses, and Jesus that she can go to the ball, and then her fairy godmother arrives, played by Natasha Henstridge, and calls on the power of Vidal Sassoon, Tom Ford, a shoe designer whose name I don't remember, to make Cinderella ball ready. Which they do, and her carriage is an electric vehicle driven by Elon Musk. Now, it is not actually played by Elon Musk, nor are any of these people actually played by the people who are actually in the movie. Which is surprising, because I thought Elon Musk would do anything for money. Money and fame, I thought he'd do anything for. Like, you could offer Elon Musk $5 to kick me in the nuts as long as you put it on YouTube, and I thought he would agree. But apparently he is too good to appear in Cinderella's Revenge. At the ball, the stepsisters are making fools of themselves, and the prince is bored with all the women hitting on him. And then Cinderella arrives, much to the dismay of the stepsisters and the stepmother. But the prince is enthralled with her. So much so that the prince chases after her when she runs outside to just find her shoe when she runs away into the fog. Back at the house, the stepsisters arrive before her because they have a carriage, unlike Cinderella's electric car, which disappeared. And they lock her out of the house and dump water on her. The next morning, Cinderella gets 20 lashes with a whip, which in the old days would be kind of dangerous because those could get infected, for going to the ball. At which point Cinderella again prays to her fairy godmother for help, and the fairy godmother gives her the mask of the guy who killed her father and tells her to get a revenge. And she immediately kills Bennett, the guy who whipped her, and then kills Rachel, her stepsister, and puts Rachel's eyes on her pillow. Because that's how sick Cinderella is. And then Josephine, the hot stepsister, who I'd really like to bang, finds Rachel in the little maze. And so Elizabeth, the stepmom, goes to hire Hogan, the guy who killed Cinderella's father, and we get our only nudity in the movie. But any nudity is good nudity. So Hogan comes back and says, "The work of a man." At which point Josephine mentions that Rachel was banging Bennett. So Hogan goes out and finds Bennett and brings the stepmother to Bennett's body when he finds it. At which point Cinderella kills Josephine and ties her up like a pig and puts an apple in her mouth for the stepmother to find. At which point the stepmother and Hogan go on a search for Cinderella. Hogan shoots Cinderella, but she's wearing a bulletproof vest from her stepmother, and Cinderella stabs him in the dick. Why in the dick? I don't know. He didn't rape anyone. I mean, he was about to rape Cinderella, but she stabs him in the dick. And then continues to stab him to death. I believe in the dick. And then showdown between Elizabeth, the stepmother, and Cinderella, which is an epic showdown, resulting in Cinderella taking a croquet mallet to his stepmother's legs and then beating the stepmother's head in with said croquet mallet. And the next morning, Cinderella's fine from her injuries. And the house guard, I guess, I'm not sure what he is. He's just the guy who stands outside the house all day. Wakes her because the police inspector's here, who is the fairy godmother, and tells her that looks like Hogan did it all for the jewels. And Cinderella's off the hook. And then she calls the prince, who's looking for her with the slipper. And the slipper fits. They get married. They have sex, which we don't see any nudity for. And then they become king and queen. And it's a happily ever after treat. This movie's actually pretty good. It has some good deaths in it. You get to see the eyeballs on the pillow, which is great. It's got funny parts in it. It's nice and violent, and you get to see Cinderella have her revenge. It is the Disney version that the Disney version should have been. I highly recommend it. It's on Prime. Cinderella's Revenge. Now for the moment you've all been waiting for, the song. Now I haven't practiced the song nearly enough. I've been busy with schoolwork this week. I spent like 4 hours on one day. Over 4 hours one day doing schoolwork. And then I went to bed. This ain't no fairy tale. This is the real world. She was a noble girl. Now she's a servant girl. Her dad was framed, stealing from the king. But it was her stepmom that wanted that bling. Now she's cleaning the latrine. Her dad told her she could be anything. But her stepmom executed him. Now she brings the tea to them. And she's spit on for doing the best she can. Cinderella's gonna have her revenge. She's going to really show them. Going to kill them all. Chop them up in the hall. And dance all night long. Her fairy godmother is on her side. It's going to be a truly wild ride. When she puts on the mask and runs loose in the manor, she's gonna kill, gonna maim. Cat, you're being annoying, not gonna be tamed. She's gonna have her revenge. She's gonna move without end and make them pay. Cinderella's gonna have her revenge. She's going to really show them, going to kill them all, and chop them up in the hall, and dance all night long. When dawn comes, the light will shine on all the dead bodies that they will find. Cinderella will have had a ball, murdering her stepsisters in the hall, and her stepmother they will find, with her head crushed and out of time. And then Cinderella will have had her revenge. So that's the review for this week. I need to turn that off. Join me next week. The movie will be Manhunter.